Welcome, everyone. It is a good day and it's spring, and we are all very excited about warm days coming and more beautiful weather and flowers. And I know a lot of you that are homeschooling are seeing your kids outside more, getting fresh air, more exercise, and I know you want to anxiously probably finish up and wrap up your school year. But sometimes we can get into a bit of a state where we need a little encouragement and a little boost and sort of a little kick to keep going. And so in a moment, I'll be introducing our guest part of this webinar session today. So while we're waiting here, we're just going to go over our Action for Canada website. So I will take you there and I will show you how to find different things. First of all, I want to show you our chapters across Canada. And so we go to our resource tab here at the top and scroll down to chapters. And you can see our map here across Canada, all the chapters. And these are people who really care what's going on in our country. So if you've got a political concern or even a spiritual concern and you need support, you can reach out to these chapters. And the way you find these people is you scroll down the site. And so it looks like Alberta's already open, but you can find your province, and let's just choose New Brunswick here. We got Fredericton, St. John, Sussex, Woodstock, and you can email them and let them know you either need advice, encouragement, information, or even prayer. That's something we do also want to encourage and support here at Action for Canada. The other thing I wanted to show you under resources as well is our homeschool site. So we've got parent webinars, and that's the list where this video will come under. And you just scroll down. And if you really want to start at the beginning, this was last year, you want to scroll right down to the bottom. And that's where most of our homeschool sessions are. There's one on homeschooling options, parent resources. There's the HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association of Canada. That's a really good one to watch. Understand what's going on across the country, how to homeschool multiple ages. And then we did one on the SOGI WinSex Ed that's infiltrating our public schools across Canada. So that one is with Tanya Gaw, our founder of Action for Canada. This one here is History of Education and Homeschooling with Israel Wayne. So they're all really good to watch. And if you've got time, even this summer, watch one a week to get caught up. And I'm just going to take you back to the top here. We also did a course on biblical and healthy sexuality. It was for the parents to help and guide them and teach them on biblical sexuality. And that started last fall. Here's an example. And there's a whole series here that's available till next fall on our site here. And if that's something you want to watch, we always appreciate a donation towards that. That was done by Peace Education Services based out of Ontario. And then CCEM, Canadian Christian Education Movement, is a Christian mission organization setting up town halls across the country and encouraging and activating churches to get more involved in the education of their children. And that can range anywhere from a daycare after school program or even running a non-government funded homeschooling school in the church. So that's a really good one to watch as well. All right, so we're going to go back up here and I'm looking for the homeschooling page right here. If you need a directory and need to find your province, in alphabetical order, you can find your province. So let's just choose Alberta here. They're the first one. If you click on the Homeschool Association, I've put them down for each province. They're sort of the ones at the top of the line that have all the questions or the answers for laws, regulations in your province. They will know where the support groups are, whether it's for the parents or the activity groups for the kids. So that would be my starting point in any of these provinces, is to reach out to your province. And I'll just scroll down. You can see them all listed here. And then below that, we've got other links that are of interest to help people with their homeschool education. Okay, I'm just going to come out of that, and I'm going to show you one more screen here. And let's see if I can do that. It's going to show you all the conventions across the country. They're all coming up. This is where you get encouraged and inspired. This is where you meet other parents, lots of moms. This is where all the good conversations in the hallways happen. This is where you get great keynote speakers. The curriculum vendors are there. They will show you curriculum. They have a lot of wisdom and insight into what they carry. And it's a great time of getting recharged. And I know for me, back in the day, I'm in BC, and ours were always early June. And when I left those weekends, I knew I wanted to homeschool again in the fall, and I needed this. So it's really good to go. And you'll notice right now, there's nothing in BC or Newfoundland this spring, but do go to their websites anyways, which are on our website, and find out if there's anything happening in your region that they may have for you. All right, so we're going to move on now. I'm going to welcome Colleen Lowther, and I'm just going to read a little bio. Colleen graduated from the University of Calgary with a degree in elementary education with a specialty in reading and early childhood. She has taught in the classroom at various grade levels and was regularly recognized for her professional excellence. Once introduced to homeschooling many years back, Colleen and her husband decided to try homeschooling their own 3 children. They trusted in God's leading to creatively discover His truth intimately and practically learn how to be strong and courageous in these times. From her experience, Colleen went on to work over the next several decades with hundreds of homeschooling families as a teacher consultant with an Alberta Christian homeschooling board. Colleen and the school board she enjoyed working for clearly put parents first as the primary educators of their children. Over the years, Colleen served with the Alberta Home Education Association and the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and also helped develop practical curriculum for families. Even today, she shares in teaching a kindergarten class with her daughter in a classical program for homeschooling families. Colleen says, "My greatest joy is encouraging moms to train up children in the way they should go. Even when they are old, they will not depart from it." Amen. Colleen and her husband, Eric, have 3 adult children, 11 grandchildren that are 13 years old and under, and host groups and activities on their country acreage where she enjoys gardening and caring for her 4 laying chickens. So, welcome, Colleen. I know you've got lots to share with us, and we look forward to this. You've titled it Success with Homeschooling. And we want to know how to get there. So you go.
Okay, well, thank you. You can do well here with this mic. Okay, so primarily this talk today is for those of you who are homeschooling, and it also, though, applies to those who are considering it. I hope it will excite and encourage you to engage in the opportunity to homeschool. So in a time when society appears to undermine any parental authority, You have decided to home educate your children for varying reasons, and you've endured some very real difficulties for the belief and the personal hope that it is just the best thing to do. That takes a tenacity hard to find and a pilgrim like faith. Well, today I'm going to share some joys and even some cautions from my own experience as a homeschool mom, and give some personal stories I had the privilege to know as a homeschool consultant with hundreds of homeschool families. But before we start, may you first of all be encouraged as women, mothers, and teachers. And most of all today, I want to pass on to you a hope in what you are doing, a peaceful, confident expectation of the goodness of God. This is yours as people of God and as homeschoolers. I am a firm believer in using scriptures to remember God's promises. So you will find attached on this website a handout listing scriptures that you can cut off verses and stick them onto your kitchen cupboard, your bathroom mirror, and as you go through your house during the day or going to bed, you can quote these and say them aloud, placing your name into each one. I, Colleen, can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Doing this can set the atmosphere in your home. Use these continually and memorize them. Well, it is much different today than when I raised my family. There is surely more of a socialist doctrine, global events that are horrific, a forced ideology, and agenda through many areas of society, and especially through every level of education, K through post-secondary. Parents are and should be concerned as they seek possibilities for their children and families. They are concerned and believe it is mandatory to respect parental authority. And homeschooling is a growing phenomenon. It's common to see families that are second and third generation homeschoolers, and they wouldn't have it any other way because they know it works. And it is a tremendous option, a viable alternative to public charter schools, and I would attest even private Christian schools. And thousands of families do it successfully each year. I personally think all parents should consider doing this. It offers parents to directly choose and filter learning by a biblical worldview for abundant life, so that our children can stand for righteousness and have a transforming impact upon this quickly changing time. I'm seeing that, and you will too. I like the way I recently heard Tucker Carlson respond to a question from a frustrated mom who realized even her Christian school offerings were dismal. And she asked, how could this have happened? Well, he responded something like this: people are not radical enough in defense of their own children. Well, new trends for homeschooling are likely to become a reality. Maybe not yet widespread, but parents are waking up with realizations of what is really going on, and they're taking things into their own hands. I remember many moms during this time of year sometimes wondering about continuing to homeschool or feeling overwhelmed with the weight of what lies ahead to get to the end of this school year, or feeling frustrated with a curriculum that's not working, a child who is challenging, friends and families who wonder what in the world you're doing, and their questions or criticism is all it takes to have you wondering if you really are crazy. Well, you're not alone. Maybe before I try to look at realistically at the seemingly insurmountable problems of this time of year, let me ask, how many of you, against your own motherly wisdom, have yelled at your kids in a frustrating moment and said, that's it, I'm sending you back to school? Or If any of you has ever phoned your husband in the middle of the day in tears to tell him you couldn't keep homeschooling, or checked with a school to see what would need to be done to enroll your children immediately. Well, this may not have happened to you, or maybe not yet, but it is very common, and it did happen to me. I do know when tempers flared, usually mine, I would have to get on my knees and call out to God. And when I'd ask forgiveness of my kids, when they were the first to say, "It's okay, Mom, I forgive you." And later, you probably felt guilty that you're not so perfect. And you know full well that you are the one doing the most learning. Remember, you have more than one full-time job. You are homeschooling, you're still a mom, a wife, a helper to your husband and all of his needs, a keeper of the home, a chief driver, planner, booking agent for numerous other activities, shopper, cook, etc. If you are looking at possibly homeschooling next year for the first time, looking excitedly at this new adventure, and another day you're feeling gripped with fear, you're going through the normal procedures to check it out. Even experienced homeschoolers can have lows at this time of year and wonder if it's time to get the kids back into school. Really, this time of year is a time all parents in and out of the school system question a myriad of choices for the deadlines of enrollment that can send even the most confident parent into a frenzy. As parents, you want what is best for your children, and that is challenging when each of your children is so unique in character and learning styles and ability. You question, am I choosing what will work? A whole year in school is a long time. If things don't work out, what would I do? Or how can I get through this year I committed to? Have your thoughts been on this kind of roller coaster ride and decisions and solutions seem far afield? Or maybe you've had difficulty getting back in a routine after Christmas break or after Family Day, or you feel disorganized in your program, or you got going again only to slump in enthusiasm. These challenges can be accentuated with mounting financial pressures, a husband who has lost his job, sickness or death in the family, any of which can be overwhelming. You are not alone, because teachers in the classroom at this time of year can also panic with how much is yet to get through, or if the children are really getting what they need. Why do you think there's a teacher convention at this time of year? Maybe it's time to take a few days off to attend a provincial homeschool conference, like Doris mentioned. For example, the Alberta Home Education Association has a wonderful conference in Alberta, May 31st to June 1st in Red Deer, and also one in Edmonton. These are so well attended, an amazing list of speakers and breakout sessions that will help you to get back into more of a positive mode of thinking and get revitalized with new ideas, techniques, and especially to share experiences firsthand with other mums of kindred spirits. This can be a bridge time to look and receive direction and become recharged to meet the challenge of finishing the school year, or what to consider to start next year. And remember, it's okay to set up your schedule to regularly take some days off to regain your balance and also a joy in what you are doing. Give yourself permission, for example, to work only 4 mornings a week and take Friday off, or 3 weeks of classes followed by a lesser demanding week to extend, reinforce, or simply enjoy some informal things that you wanted to learn together. And experienced homeschool mums will be the first to say, be realistic and don't push it all the time. You don't need to work all day. Remember, you have the flexibility of time. And the benefits of incorporating learning into everything you are doing. important things that will go with your children the rest of their lives. For example, you can plan to travel when others can't. Use the discounts without crowds and plan trips and fun days because you can. If it's freezing out, why not leave the books and go to the local wave pool and have a Hawaii day? Get your kids to plan the day, snacks to take, Hawaiian music, get travel agent pictures to accentuate beaches and warm weather. Invite others. And then also put things on your calendar to look forward to with anticipation. I understand no parent wants their kids to fall behind, but moms often worry. Am I doing enough? Well, just think of the wasted time of bus rides, school lineups, and dismal school lunches. One young mom remembered her child only had 10 minutes to gulp down their lunch, and this did matter to the mom who wanted her child to have the time to enjoy as they needed. I've seen single moms work diligently to homeschool with great successes. And if you have additional support of grandparents, friends, homeschool co-ops, amazing things are possible. I've also visited with young widows who continued to homeschool with their 6 kids and another with 4 kids. They built character, morals, and gave opportunities to exhibit a joy to serve others in need. Some moms have even adopted special needs kids or multiple children at once to be part of their families, homeschooling and all. Did it take time to adjust? You bet. But what interactions those kids had as they remained loyal to their siblings and share life together. I just spoke to a grandma and grandpa who just started to homeschool their little granddaughters in grade 2 and grade 5, one with some learning needs. They were organized, decisive, having fun with curriculum, and ready to make soup that afternoon. I've also seen dads doing a great job as the prime homeschooling parent with changes in their work situations. And they've been the first to share how much they realize their wives have done. And moms, you would probably like to see more involvement from your husbands, but ultimately you will shoulder the day-to-day working out of a regular program. However, it is vital that dads realize this is very real for their wife. And it's important for her to know that this is a shared responsibility, that as a family, you have both chosen this route, you both feel and know it's best, and you both support each other in this quest. Dads can affirm mom's work and give her an audience to vent frustrations and talk about what is working and what is not working. This can do remarkable things to keep a positive perspective. Thus, it always works best for husbands to reinforce and support the daily homeschooling program with daily praise in the little things, and even meeting with the child being difficult, and let him or her know you will be looking at all the learning worked on that day. The husband is like a principal of the school, because he can oversee what is going on and give wisdom with the big picture. His advice is usually amazingly on track. And pray for each other too, because sometimes at home when you're having a difficult day and you call your husband, you may find he's having a difficult day too. So once you feel that pressure, pray for each other. It works well. This all helps, but understand for many, loneliness can be very real to moms working at home day to day, trying to get it all done, determined to be tenacious and accountable. I usually hear moms say, I prayed for a homeschooling friend for my little boy or girl, and not only did I find one for them, I found one for me with that mom. This may not happen immediately, but it's very common, and most moms will find that they can confide in and discuss homeschooling matters with a mom that befriends them. Thus, it is so important to get involved in a support group. Even classes set up a day a week that others teach groups of kids, while moms have the freedom to do something else for themselves. Many school boards already do this. Maybe you need to think outside the box. No one is forcing you to school 5 days a week. Trade some learning times with other moms, like a science unit. Flexibility is how you create it. Next, it is important to recognize your children keep changing as they go through what I refer to as ages and stages. At different ages and stages, you may come upon challenges that seem insurmountable, and you question yourself and what is happening and what could remedy a problem. It might be a stage that is short-lived and something that tests your fiber for a stretch of time, and you may question if you have the grit or the child psychology know-how to get through. If you have, like any parent, you look for answers. I remember a classic example of my son when he was about 13. We had a great relationship, but I was at my wit's end to keep him cooperating. I found like-minded moms at a national conference. They gave immediate stories of their own sons with grueling episodes of ignoring mom's direction and daily struggles. The solution every time was recognizing these sons are looking at becoming a man. A mom's well-intentioned plans were not enough anymore. Dads had to take a closer oversight and accountability for specific projects and checking his work from mom. A dad's conference with their sons might sound like this. A man does a good job and completes his work. A boy does this, but a man does this. Thus, a boy will rise to the expectations and accountability of his father more than he will to his mother. He wants to become a man and will rise to the challenge of manly behavior, and they need and want to be affirmed by their father at this stage of life. Moms have to let go. And what about those little children interfering with that important work at the table? Well, work to involve them in their own homeschooling tasks. Even give them a special carpet remnant or a small tablecloth to sit on close by. And do a daily task chosen from the Ziploc bag of assignments kept in a special box just for them. You could even set a timer or use an hourglass for them to watch. You'll find another handout attached to this website to give quick ideas to try as needed with these little ones. My daughter homeschools 4 little children from the age of 7 down to 1. It's been noted very much by experts that reading a lot of books in a home really creates a very good indicator of educational success, high learning levels. Homeschoolers are usually good readers because it's encouraged in the home all the time, and they actually have time to read, unlike classrooms. My daughter was focused on her teaching lessons when she looked up and couldn't see where little Sarah was, not yet 2 years old. And scanning the room, she called out several times, "Sarah, where are you? Where are you?" She heard a little voice saying, "I'm here reading." There in a private corner, she was looking at a pile of her favorite books. That's not quite 2 years old. Well, you have likely experienced a single incident that usurps your confidence, or a combination of factors. Maybe it's being everything to everyone all the time, 24 hours a day. Maybe it's having all the kids coming to you with needs all at once, and you're pressed for not knowing everything at every grade level, or feeling unable to check the children's work and wondering when they should have to redo it, or if you've just been too hard on them or haven't expected enough. Any of this sound familiar? But you know, of all these challenges, singly or in combination, the biggest one of all seems to be one that I experienced myself, and I hear it time and time again from mums. You feel so responsible for your child's education, and that responsibility is leaning on your shoulders all the time. You may wonder if you can really know enough and be able to really know the right choices to make so that your children will experience the success you want them to in the long run, and that you won't ruin your children and their opportunities for the future. Yikes. Any of you ever feel that way? I think this is one of the most daunting for homeschoolers, this sense of responsibility. This can cause any mom to say, I'm quitting, I just can't take this anymore, or will have you question, why am I doing this anyway? Well, Raymond Moore always says it's better to change rather than quit. Remember, teachers in the classroom are teaching the same class often for a number of years, and at the end of the year, they will say, I didn't like this and I won't do that again, and this really worked well. You'll do the same as you gain experience with what works for you and your children. Remember, you're teaching multi-level grades and learning new grades every year. But maybe start with a more structured program in language arts and math, and then as you become confident, you may choose to do more practical unit studies for history, science, with many fun integrated studies that are given in the guidebooks written by experts. Don't reinvent the wheel. In spring, I watched a mom ease her panic, looking ahead at how is she ever going to finish. And she went through her math book and marked the pages with colored sticky tabs with dates that divided up the remaining book to ensure completion. Remember too, because you are teaching one-on-one, your children are often under a magnifying glass. And when you observe and teach them, they are not lost in a crowded classroom. This has positives and negatives and can raise the frustration level of specific tasks. Be careful with young children who have a need for shorter, intense teaching. I usually suggest if your child is 7, they can focus for 7 minutes before a stretch. 10-year-olds can focus for 10 minutes, and it's typical to change up an activity at this point for any age. It's just good brain science. And there are many sites for brain breaks with music that can make you all laugh together. Maybe make a list of daily tasks in a scribbler for each child, and as they complete and check off the items that are starred must-dos, then they would get to choose an activity. And then mom can rotate teaching times going around each child. Remember to make a program work for you and your child. If they know the concept, numerous workbook pages are not necessary. Right at the top of the page, did orally, so that when you look back, you won't panic with the blank pages. Or sometimes decide to just do the odd numbers or just the even number problems. Saxon Math is a remarkable program to achieve excellence right through high school. It can feel like a lot to do though. So elementary through middle school, consider doing the new concept page every day and the review section every couple of days. I visited a math specialist for Calgary Public Schools, and she happened to start homeschooling her own son in junior high. Since she chose an evaluated program, she ordered Saxon Math for all the classrooms in her area, and she noted that these same students using this program in the grade 9 provincial achievement test, they showed remarkable evidence of excellent category. Maybe hire a tutor. from a high schooler next door to focus and reinforce weekly lessons. And when things become frustrating with a child or children, before you blow your stack, start to say to yourself, will this really matter for eternity? It will put things back into perspective and usually calm you down. I'd like to encourage you to prioritize what will make you feel what you've accomplished and set out to do. Remember, always take advantage of the teachable moment. For example, when those big fluffy snowflakes fall, grab that black construction paper for each child, no matter what their age, to actually catch and see up close those six-sided shapes, and then learn the science about this miracle formation with God's account in scriptures of treasures in the snow. Through all of this, don't forget, it's your attitude that determines the atmosphere. Now let's talk a little bit about time management, and reserving some time for yourself. First-year homeschoolers can sometimes get way too much curriculum and then feel overwhelmed with trying to get it finished. Or they may be so enthusiastic in getting involved in different field trips that they feel they're not accomplishing enough at home. Homeschoolers who are never home. Be selective. Sometimes a support group can give you the confidence you need. Just be careful, because sometimes listening to others can be counterproductive. I would suggest that you draw up a philosophy of why you're doing what you're doing. It will help with your decision making. Print it up and post it, because when you start to question why you are doing this, and you will, when you're in the waves and feeling sidetracked or discouraged, it can be an anchor in the ups and downs of homeschooling. Share it often with your children. For us, academics wasn't our overall priority. Not that we ignored it, as we did regular programs in the basics, reading, writing, math, science, etc. But we worked to see what would challenge our children's unique giftings. We stressed standing for family with a Christian worldview, and to be able to stand alone and be critical thinkers. A mother's verse that I held through homeschooling years and I often share with moms is so important to remember. Do what you can, use what you have, and let God perfect it. That again means you have to be humble in that you accept that you aren't and can't be in control of everything, but that you should prioritize some recharge time for yourself, for the benefit of your kids, your husband, and everyone that has to live with you. Sally Clarkson, a well-known homeschooling mom, author, and motivating speaker, says that it is in the home that sharing both the mundane and the meaningful moments of life happens. It is celebrating life in the midst of building roadways into each other's hearts and met with memories and love. I'm a great fan, as I said, of whenever possible to use hands-on activities with delight-directed studies. In other words, using the things the kids are already interested in to energize the learning activities. Unit studies, as I've said, can integrate all learnings in fun reading, writing, math, science, etc. When we tackled a unit on owls, it was the first time God actually showed us a great horned owl on the high tree on our property. We took the opportunities to dissect owl pellets found at the bottom of the tree, and we extended learning with many projects and reading an old novel study called Owls in the Family by Farley Mowat. Very funny. When doing a unit on Canadian fur trading, a mum made simple outfits of fun fur for the kids to happily march around as fur traders, to dramatize scenes, to summarize events. Such events brought history to life. Well, socialization is probably one of the strongest homeschool benefits. Your kids will be confident with all age groups, and they're not peer dependent. One father said, "My kids don't smoke, drink, or take drugs, so I guess they're not socialized." You'll see young people who are actively ministering to others. And they seek these ideas in prayer and ministry opportunities. I visited a family with 3 young men through junior high and high school who decided to make sandwiches for the needy, and it became replicated all over the city, with students working together in larger organized groups. And it was reported in the media. Each of my children had a large number of strong Christian friends, and not from the church youth group, that they continue to have as friends today as they raise their own families. Well, remember, the important thing is not that your children will do well in school, but that they will do well in life. We have arrived at a time many graduate home educators are exploding into the marketplace and society with notable character, joy, servant hearts, and integrity. Levels of excellence like that are sought after and being noticed. Tackle things prayerfully and remember your children are unique and each having a special destiny that you're part of molding and shaping. But realize you do not have full control of how they're going to turn out. God has placed in each one natural inclinations that are part of their defined character right from the very start. You might think you're molding your children, and with perseverance, you will have your way. But there's a design you're not going to change, and that is in each one of your children, and it's going to express itself independently. I have many amazing and incredible stories of homeschool families and students and what they have accomplished, but I better summarize. We recognized that it can be very challenging, especially at this time of year. We touched on a number of strategies to modify your programs to meet your needs and keep going. Remember, don't worry about doing enough. Give yourself a break. Trust in God's peace and leading. Do what you can, use what you have, and let God perfect it. It's in our homes we model by example. More is caught than taught. Defeat the feelings of loneliness or your isolation feelings by having regular connection with other homeschooling kids, moms, and families. Remember that you are mom learning. And remember the first time you were a first-time mom, you were learning all the time about babies. And this is kind of similar. We mentioned that your kids go through ages and stages. Be flexible and adapt and get husbands to help with this, especially with early adolescent boys. Finally, you know your attitude determines the atmosphere. Your energy rubs off. At the same time, you must schedule times to step back, take a break, and recharge with the grace that God gives. I will close off with a story. A number of years ago, my husband and I were asked to be able to speak at the Quebec Homeschool Conference. Homeschooling is very difficult there in that province due to government regulation and opposition. It remains so today, yet parents are tenacious to choose this route. In preparation for this conference and speaking to moms and dads, through prayer, God gave me a creative insight about the Bible story of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, John 6:8. And I shared this with them, and I will leave it with you. A boy brought a lunch, something that Christ was able to use. Had he come to hear Christ's teaching, or was he out walking and stumbled upon the disciples? Either way, he had brought food that he was willing to share. Imagine that bundle of food was a catalyst that allowed him to be used. He was prepared to be used for a miracle. Why? Well, I would propose to you mums that his mum sent him off for the day. He was prepared. She readied him for service. She didn't know what was ahead for that day, but she lovingly and obediently prepared him. It was so significant, it was recorded in Scripture for eternity. God used what he brought that day for a huge miracle. Mums, you are in a similar position. You are working with your children to prepare to send them out in that world, not knowing what to expect, but eagerly setting them to task, hoping Christ will use them in astounding, unimaginable ways. Well, believe God has a plan for you. You are in the right place for such a time as this. I hope that was helpful and that you continue to succeed with homeschooling. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen Lowther. That was amazing. You've covered so many areas of thoughts that mothers go through, parents, that the questions they go through. You've covered so much and so encouraging and great perspective. I just have a few questions on my mind here. Some people who homeschool sometimes say their children will develop better character and think critically. Have you seen evidence of that?
Well, I certainly have. I think I remember a student who had homeschooled and they went to university, and they noticed an immodest and offensive statue in the public cafeteria, Mount Royal University. She wrote a letter to the dean questioning why was that there. Since the student was on the dean's list with high marks, she had a valid entry point for communication. She asked for a written reply of what would be done about this. The dean found out that a private business had installed that, and it was removed. The business contract was canceled and was not allowed the following year. This student had thought critically about why would this be and what can I do about it. Another story was a student taking a business class was critically thinking as well and standing alone when he encountered a professor who decided to preach his views on that marriage should be extended beyond being between a man and a woman. Following class, he and a small group of students made a plan. The next time the professor decided to preach his personal views, the students from different faith denominations who placed themselves strategically throughout the classroom took the initiative in class to stand up one by one to quote the latest polls that affirmed traditional marriage and statistics that showed the opposite of what the professor pushed. They quoted clear examples of how families provided the best strength for children. It didn't take long for that professor to take a step back and begin his accounting lecture once again. I don't even think this student lost any marks for being so bold. Lots of those stories happen. Postgraduates are doing things that are amazing out there in the world.
Wow, good for them. That's a great story. What about the parents being vital in this in the process? Do you have an example of how parental choices for a child made the difference?
Well, certainly parents are the best ones to love their own children, and because of that, they make the best decisions as they go through the process of rearing them and seeing them do the best that they can through the parents' guidance. I remember a little girl with cerebral palsy, and she was homeschooling through early years and even middle school age, and she was an amazing little reader and very involved in so many areas of learning. So, she even was successfully researching getting a horse of her own. And using horses that were trained for special needs kids. She needed to go through several surgeries on her spine. And when the Children's Hospital, following their routine assessments and medical expectations, suggested that this little girl should join the hospital school for 3 to 4 weeks during a recovery time, her mom asked me, what did I think of such an education plan entailing this? And when I responded with asking the mom, what did she think was right? She immediately and tearfully said she would instead desire to homeschool her little girl after each day in the recovery program, meaning she would have to drive back and forth. Of course, this mom had incredible plans for challenging this young woman and cheerfully undertook it willingly with optimism and successfully met her little daughter growing into a young woman, her individual needs with expertise, the best that any parent would do. The hospital actually learned from all of this, and this upbringing made her an incredible young woman today. What an amazing family I was privileged to get to know.
Wow, that's an inspiring story. Thank you.
It's amazing what parents can do.
Really, it's really true. Homeschoolers seem to have a lot of flexibility from what you've said. How have you seen families take advantage of the flexibility homeschooling offers? I know we used it every year. We would go down to Palm Springs for 2 weeks where my parents were, and we grabbed our reading and our math, and yeah, we enjoyed a rest in the sunshine during the winter months. And that was the flexibility we had. My husband was a shift worker, so it worked better for us to go away in the winter. And so that was one of the ways the flexibility was great. What have you seen?
Well, you're right, Doris. There's so much flexibility offered to families because they are creative thinkers and they want to do the best for what will work for them personally. Well, I've seen so much flexibility over and over with homeschoolers. And just a few would be, I saw athletes that were competitive figure skaters over in Japan for a number of long months, and they were able to continue with homeschooling programs. And I had a knowledge of a little pianist who was truly a little virtuoso, and he traveled on tour to many places in Europe performing. And because he homeschooled, he had no lack of academics. I was also a facilitator with a family that was doing mission work in South America. And she was working as a nurse, and her husband was a doctor. They were working with Indigenous people groups. So we were able to complete the 2 family visits that were needed with one in-person visit and then a second visit that was approved to be on a Skype call, an old version of Zoom. So these parents made the decision of traveling, doing academics as needed, and they made the decision of what was going to work for their children and for their families. It was quite incredible.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking too, like right now we're in spring break, or some people call it March break. It's some week here in Canada, somebody's having a March break. And when you homeschool, you can take your breaks outside of those high busy times when airfare is higher, entry tickets are higher. You can go like end of October, you can go February, you can go mid-April, anywhere you want and avoid lineups. So again, the flexibility is really great for lifestyle. Yeah.
I agree. We did it very often ourselves, and most homeschoolers are aware they don't have to be contained with that structure of dates given to them by the school system.
That's right. Yeah. You once shared a story with me that I was hoping you could share again with the audience. You mentioned that families have done some amazing things that you've seen. Can you share an example?
Well, again, creativity is at the high for homeschoolers. New mums need to realize that it's what they think can be done and what will work for their situation. And then the learning comes after that, because it's so incredible what can be accomplished just for their own families. And they're really a good model for others to say, oh, I didn't know you could do that kind of thing. But I had the privilege of visiting many creative families working to integrate their learning with what worked best. And life service to others is usually deliberate. And so it's quite amazing. I visited a missionary family building a light two-person plane with the expertise of their grandfather, their uncles, and their dad. And their goal was to build the first plane that could carry enough fuel to cross the Amazon River and enable missionaries to reach unknown tribes there. They worked on the project on their large hangar that they had constructed on their acreage with a runway and all. It was quite incredible. They actually did it with the boys helping to drill in bolts and screws. They talked about getting the official flight hours completed that were necessary, and it was actually given to the missionaries there in the Amazon. You can imagine how they poured their own knowledge of flight, fuselage for it, how things worked to get it to at the Amazon, and what life experiences those kids had that captivated their hearts for more opportunities in their future. It's just amazing ideas. But most people can't build a plane. But I'm just saying that as a real example of being true to yourself and letting your kids experience things that they need to see for their futures.
Absolutely. Yeah, the creativity is beautiful. And I remember as a mother how fulfilling and exciting it was for me to create ideas with each child because they all had separate interests. Um, and then just create some sort of a plan that got them excited about doing something. And yet it was school. And we always think school is sit down at the table and fill out the blanks and check the boxes, and then it makes mom feel good because we've checked all the boxes. But did they actually retain? Did they actually remember what they just did? And so there's so many other creative ways to instill and teach and implant knowledge. And like with this plane, there's math,
Oh,
there's
everything.
science, there's history or geography,
Yeah.
and then of course the life experiences, and so that fills the soul as well and brings joy and satisfaction and purpose. And
Yeah.
this is what our kids need. If they don't have purpose,
Yeah.
um, and if they don't feel good about what they're doing, we need to add to that. And it's those kind of projects. And then the family working together. That's another key component, is
Yes.
families doing things together. And how many parents, especially moms, long for that relationship to have a relationship with their child. And they're not really sure how to get that back. And so homeschooling also really develops that. And yeah, that's a really great story.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's really a learning to learn experience for families to just choose these kind of things that are, individual to their families. And they're doing amazing things around the world. They really are, even with their post-secondary learning. I have many stories about those options for homeschoolers that really are very well recommended, and they're very excited about what they can stand alone for and have good character training to show to others. So it's just a real incredible journey.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. You in one of the attachments that will be on our website is a list of verses from the Bible that have been an encouragement to you. Do you have one or two you want to share with us, and why?
Oh, there's just so many in there for homeschooling. Different days I would rest on different verses, and I would get alone on my knees in prayer many times. And sometimes my kids would join me just because of the situational things. I used to say a lot of, um, uh, what was the verse I gave earlier? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I really would advise say these out loud and put the scripture at the back of what you're saying, because you'll end up memorizing those and you'll use them many, many times through your day or different situations as you go through things.
It's funny you mentioned that verse because I actually have printed your list here, and that one I checked off for me. And then another one you have on the list is surely God is my help. The Lord is the one who sustains me, from Psalm 54, verse 4. And another one, the Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27, 1. And yeah, when you print this, folks, when you get this list on our website, it's 3 pages, and you can even cut them out if you want, or you can create your own. You also have another attachment that we'll have available for people to print. It's practical ideas for younger children. Tell us about the Ziploc activity bags that you store in a box.
Well, those are the activities on the list that you can put into those bags. And
Okay.
then when you need one on the last minute, you can just pull one out. Or you can simply just say, okay, this is the activity I'm going to do today. And you may not have it in a Ziploc bag, but organize it so that you have it ready to pull out and use with your little ones. So there's many easy activities there to use with blocks, with play, with library books that you can listen to audibly and have little microphones for them to hear the story and know when to turn the page. There's but they're meant for little guys so that you can continue some of your paperwork at tables or some of your discussions with the older children.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I will definitely be giving this to my kids because they're starting their homeschooling journey in the fall, and they've got little ones, that's for sure. Thank you. I appreciate you, Colleen Lowther from Alberta, and I know you've got a lot of experience. You've really brought it all together. It's one of these sessions that I think, and I'm glad it's recorded because I think it'll be useful for moms to come back to again and listen again, to be re-encouraged again, because, you know, there was so much there, and you know, we focus on 2 or 3 things, and then, you know, you kind of, maybe you master it and you're going, oh, there's more. And I'm sure Colleen knows the answer. So I really appreciate that. I also just wanted to go back and mention on our screen share, my screen share here, I'm just going to go back to the list of conventions. You did talk about it, and I think it's important for people to go. Here we go. And if any of these places are close to you, I do encourage our audience to head out there this spring. Alberta has 2 of them. Ontario has 2. Invest in taking care of yourself, like Colleen mentioned, and get connected and be encouraged and inspired by the speakers and by the vending hall where all the curriculum is. It's really a powerful time.
Yes.
Yeah. I just also wanted to mention, if anybody wanted to reach me, my name is Doris Livingstone. I'm at Homeschooling at actionforcanada.ca. And I do reply within 2 days, usually 2 to 3 days. I do reply with any concerns or questions. Colleen, did you have any last closing words? I'm going to add one more thing here, but I just want to give you a chance to wrap it up here before I add one more thing here.
No, it's an amazing journey for you to try out. I do believe It's the one of the best that you can encounter. You can teach your children well. Don't have limitations because of who you think you are. You're not a teacher, or et cetera, et cetera. Don't look at high school when you've got grade 2s, but look at what you're doing now, and then just rest that God is working with you day to day.
That's right. And you know, earlier you mentioned different types of moms, single moms, widowed moms, moms of special needs kids. And I know some people know my story, but after 13 years of homeschooling, my husband was killed in an accident. So then I was a single mom of teenagers, and I wanted to finish. And I did the last 5 years alone. I had my network of support people around me, and my community, and my church, and my homeschool community. And so there are ways to do this if you are on your own and you feel this need to homeschool your child. So if it's pressing on you and you need a little direction, please reach out to me at homeschooling@actionforcanada.ca. I'm happy to get you started and point you to the right people. And I also love, Colleen, what you mentioned. Our attitude as moms determines the atmosphere. And I think we know that also, that's with our husbands, and it's definitely in the home. The kids know. And yeah, every day we bring it before the Lord, I guess, right? Start the day there. And we do have hard days, but overall, those were the best years of my life ever. I loved the whole family homeschooling thing. It was amazing.
And it does go to second and third generation. My 11 grandchildren are all homeschooling. So
Oh,
they encourage each other, and they encourage other people looking at starting.
oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's our hope, isn't it, for all of our children to take it on. I just wanted to put out there to our audience, our next webinar will be Tuesday, April 23rd. We're going to have Dorinda Wilson back, and she has a website, and she's an author and has daily podcasts. And we're excited to bring her back. She just released her first book, Raising Boys to Men. And Colleen, as you were talking about boys and when they need their dads, more so even when they're teenagers. And Dorinda also brings all that up and starts right in the earliest days. And what a great person to have talking about that, because in this age where boys and men are being challenged not to be men and not to live to their God created design, and they're wired to be masculine and men and leaders. And so she's going to talk with us about that. And that again is Tuesday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it'll be a live webinar. So if you want to attend and you've got questions, that would be a great time to sign in as well. And again, all our webinars will be on our website. And you can always go back and watch something over again, so they won't disappear on you guys. All right. Thank you again, Colleen. Lowther, appreciate you having you on today. And I wish you all of God's blessings and favor on you and your children and your grandchildren, as they, as it sounds like the whole family's, including you, you're still involved in homeschooling. So still part of it as a grandma. Any grandmas listening, we have big jobs out there to take care and be part of.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't.
Thank
But
you.
it's with joy. That's what I love about it. I love being part of it. All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye, folks.